rare.
Boo 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 boo. Do 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 do. Ooh do 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 do. Ooh do 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 do. Ooh. Hi everybody. We're just here doing the science conga line while we're getting ready for the show. Are you all ready for science?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's say a few words and check our audio and get a little bit of a check, mic check with everyone who's here right now.
Worm milk.
This is a new mic check. Worm milk, not warm milk, worm milk. Would you like some warm milk with your worm milk? We're milking worms. We're milking worms? No. Justin, what do you think about worm milk?
Fat bear.
Fat bear.
Fat bear, fat bear, fat bear. Fat bear.
We like them. Yes. Check. We're here. Hope everyone is here for a live broadcast of the TWIS podcast. We will be recording our podcast now, and it's very exciting. Woo-woo! Wee-wee! Aha! Science! It happened. A lot of it happened. And we are here to share with you and to discuss and enjoy. So, are we ready to start?
Yeah.
We all good?
Yep.
Okay. Whew. Let us start a show then, shall we? In 3, 2, this is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 845, recorded on Wednesday, October 6th, 2021. Who are the Science Prize winners? I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight we will fill your heads with worms, women, and fat bears. But first,
Disclaimer. Because of information that has recently come to light, the program you are about to hear has been removed of all algorithms. While occasional audience members have reported no direct ill effects, artificial intelligence has been used on the show to direct users towards interesting and informative information. Frequent consumers of our content have reported an increased appetite for intellectual pursuits in their daily lives that cannot always be consolidated with the grim reality of living in a society that is mostly devoid of such engagements. As difficult as it is to say, we fully admit that we have intentionally used our algorithms to get you to interact with our content. And we further acknowledge that we knew it was very likely to give you the unrealistic expectation that interest and excitement about science was universal, and that it painted an unachievable goal of intelligent conversations with your fellow humans. And we're sorry. Actually, that was easier to say than I thought. I just said the words, and there they were. Well, now that that's over, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and get on the Patreon train because it's This Week in Science coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kiki and Blair.
and a good science to you too, Justin, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. We're back. You ready to talk about science?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm.
We have all sorts of yummy science news for you this week. Little tidbits of brain stimulation from my corner. I've also got spider medicine myths and Nobel Prizes. I'm handing them out all over the place.
Do I get one?
No.
Oh,
No, no winner yet.
next year.
Maybe next year. Maybe in 50 years. Justin, what did you bring?
I brought fat bears, water bears, and an ancient jaw that got found.
Is it a bear jaw?
It is not, but you'll have to bear with
You
me
said
on it.
jaw. I thought you said Joff, like Jeff with a G.
Yeah. Yeah, that
And a joff.
That's
No.
what I
Yes,
said.
I found
No.
an ancient skeleton named Joff.
that might be what I said. I can't tell who's taking more pills to get to the show tonight, me or you. But very possible that it's both of us.
Wow. Okay. All right, everybody. Blair, what's in the animal
Yes.
corner? It's
Listen.
not bears, I hope.
I know what you
Joffs.
came here to hear tonight. I know what you're all asking about, and I brought you all the worm milk. Don't worry about the other stories. I brought some other stories too, but really just focus on the fact that I brought worm milk tonight.
I'm focusing on that right now, and I
Yeah.
really don't know what to think about it. Really don't know what to think about it right now.
Just you wait.
All right, I'm waiting. I am waiting. But while everybody else is waiting, I do hope that maybe they take the time to look for us on podcast platforms where they can subscribe. You, if you have not subscribed, can find us. All places podcasts are found. Just look for This Week in Science. We are also on Facebook, which sometimes disappears, and on Instagram, which also sometimes disappears, and on Twitter and Twitch. If we're not This Week in Science, we could be TWIS Science. Our website is twis.org. Okay, well, let's just get the awarding done with. No reason to make anybody wait. Let's award things. You ready to give out prizes?
Let's do it.
Okay, well, let us give today's prize out for the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2021 to Benjamin List and David W.C. Macmillan for the development of asymmetric organocatalysis. Basically being able to make molecules in a more efficient way so you don't end up with a lot of stuff that you don't want. It allows researchers, chemists, to produce enantiomers, or these mirror images, asymmetrical molecules that are specifically chosen. And there's not a bunch of stuff left over. So it's great for making drugs. It's great for chemistry in general, creating the chemicals that will help us live a more vibrant life, which is just fun and fancy. It wasn't what I was expecting for chemistry for this year. David W.C. Macmillan, in an interview with the Nobel Prize committee, said, "We thought it had a very low probability of success." But there you go. And he goes on to say, it's the stuff that should never work, which is where all the good stuff is. Which is kind of fun. Benjamin List said, making molecules is like creating something beautiful. It is creating something beautiful. I don't think it's like creating something beautiful. It is something beautiful. It's fantastic. The Nobel Prize in Physics is shared between Syukuro Manabe, Klaus Hasselmann, and Giorgio Parisi for groundbreaking contributions to our understanding of complex systems. So systems complexity, which people were amazed that it was awarded this year, but the complexity of systems is something that underpins so much of our understanding of our own world at this point in time. Climate change research, a lot of that is based on the complex interactions of multiple different environmental parameters. How do the clouds and the sun and other aspects of the atmosphere work together to give the climate that we have? How does humanity influence it? They also say it revolutionized the theory of disordered materials and random processes. Randomness. It really does exist in the world. The Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2021. No, it did not go to mRNA this year. It went to David Julius and Ardem Pataputian for their discovery of receptors for temperature and touch. They discovered the TRPV1 receptor for temperature and heat pain, the piezo1 and piezo2 touch proprioception receptors, which without our understanding of these, we wouldn't understand how our senses interact with the world. How do these receptors work to allow us to sense temperature, heat, cold, pain that can warn us that our body is being damaged? How do we sense pressure and those slight changes, vibrations, and those slight movements against the covering of our body, our skin? These researchers, they woke up, and David Julius said he was woken up by a text from his sister-in-law. Someone has been trying to reach you. I didn't want to give him your phone number. So if you are outside of the Nobel Prize time zone, researchers can be woken up very early in the morning. Some other researchers who did receive the award this year, they let the phone ring and finally answered it after they had let it go to voicemail a couple of times.
Yeah, if they miss the third one, they move on to the next on the list. So it's a
That's
good
right.
thing
Just
they
you missed it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, all
Stay
you
by
can
that
buy,
phone this
all you
time of
can
year.
fit in the shopping cart shopping spree for you. Oh no.
I still think for the medicine, I think the mRNA, if they haven't, if they don't already have that locked in, maybe for next year or something.
It definitely will be because it's
get
it will be.
timely. Just you can bump somebody off of the thing this year. Like I get to touch things important, but there's millions of people's lives being saved right now by this mRNA vaccines and technology.
And I think, perhaps I'm going to guess that people involved in vaccine development and the mRNA usefulness, that there were nominations. I'm going to guess that there were, but I'm going to also guess that they are waiting because the potential for mRNA is really great, the same way that the potential for CRISPR was really great. And it took a few years before Jennifer Doudna and Emmanuel Charpentier got the Nobel Prize, which was a couple of years ago. But it took many years for them to really see the benefit of it. We've seen a huge benefit from vaccines, but there's this potential of, is mRNA going to lead to other vaccines? Is it going to lead to other treatments and therapies that we haven't even seen yet? What else is it going to do? And I think perhaps the Nobel Committee is playing it safe on that one.
Maybe. But it's just, application is so separate from things sometimes. Like the Nobel Prize was awarded in 1964 to three people who invented or perfected or pushed further the science of lasers. Now they got a Nobel Prize for it. Great. But what does lasers do? It's just an amplified light thing, right? No, now we use it. From all of our optical reading devices to like eye surgery to just like lasers are used in so many different medical things. It's like everything. Technology, lasers are all over the place. They had no idea. They're like, hey, we found this cool way we can amplify light. Check this out. Oh, Nobel Prize. Yeah, it was amazing. You did that. No idea what the actual applications would be. mRNA is I think, already that impressive. But
yeah,
Gary L.
Sometimes
is
it
asking,
takes the time. Yeah.
Gary L. in the chat room asked, how much money did they win for a Nobel Prize?
Yeah, so I was just looking that up, and they received the reward for the Nobel Prize is a gold medal, a diploma, and a monetary award of about $1,145,000 split between the winners. So if there's 1, 2, or 3, that award amount is split. It's a nice sum of money, but it's not the full amount.
They also, from what I've heard, get a much better parking spot at their university.
At their institution.
I've actually heard about this.
Yes.
Like that's
if you win a Nobel Prize, it's not just the money prize. It is
a lot of prestige.
Esteem. Yeah, the prestige that comes with it.
Gravitas.
Yeah, for sure. But, I really do feel like every year, we've talked about this before, it's like the Nobel Prize. It's time to celebrate the old white men of science. Woo, yeah, and then he's like, oh, yeah, okay, no, maybe it's not all old white men of science. Okay, there were just a lot of men this year. So, okay, it's people who stood on the backs of others while erasing the influence of other people who helped them, like graduate students and lab assistants and so many others, because science is a collaborative effort. And no, okay, wait, I'm not selling this correctly. So, okay, it is a celebration of the achievements that science have brought us, that have changed the way that we exist in the world and the way that we see the world around us. It is a human award, so there are issues with it. And hopefully, as our society changes, the award and others like it will change with it. But it's good to
and
celebrate.
Is this a bad time for me to point out that the woman who pioneered mRNA vaccines was a woman?
Yes.
Who also didn't get tenure.
The woman
at
who
her
did it was a woman.
Who also didn't get tenure at her university, very likely because she was a woman. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same old story.
So timing. Timing is everything, as we were
is.
talking about. But this might have been a good one.
Yeah. But congratulations to all the scientists who received the Nobels this year, and to science in general, because it is a time of year when we can celebrate the achievements of the human mind and human endeavors. And so that in itself is great. So now we need to celebrate something else, Justin. What are we going to celebrate that you brought to the show?
Oh, okay. So how many times have these people, these humans, won their top prize in their category?
What? Oh, they win once. That's
they
it.
just win once. Okay.
They win once.
I was just
one
curious.
time.
Just curious. Okay, so each winter, the brown bears of Katmai National Park in Alaska do what brown bears everywhere do. They snuggle up in their dens for some number of months, doing absolutely nothing. No foraging, no fishing, no drinking, no social media, just nothing. And when it's over, they emerge pretty much emaciated. They can lose a third of their body weight in as much as over these period of months. So they spend the next rest of the year trying to pack the pounds back on because winter is going to be coming again. They are at their fattest in the late summer, early fall, which is when the park holds its annual Fat Bear competition. It's a weekly voting bracket where people can pick their favorite fat bear each week until there's only one bear standing. And this year's winner, Otis. Otis is one of the older bears in the park, and this win makes him a 4-time Fat Bear champion. So
he's very good at what he does.
He's really good.
He's good at fattening up to survive the winter.
The keys to Otis's multiple wins are come down to patience, a lack of exercise, and a good PR campaign. So while most of the bears are mulling about the park, chasing after salmon in the river, then they might be searching in the forest, trying to find the bear snacks, Otis has a strategy of sitting in the river in one shallow spot by a waterfall and just waiting for the fish to come to him. His favorite spot also happens to be close to one of the park's many live video feeds, which makes him an easy bear for the camera to focus on when the other bears are wandering off or wandering back in. Otis is still just there sitting, waiting for a salmon to swim up to him. So maybe somewhere this might make him an easy bear to watch for the fan base that then is tuning in to it's the explore.org, which they've actually got hundreds of wildlife video feeds from around the world. So you go check out explore.org. But because he's just sitting there in that one spot, right near where the camera can catch him perfectly, the camera spends a lot of time watching Otis watch the water, waiting for a fish. He's not the most exciting bear, but somewhere between the lack of him exercising at all, apparently, throughout this summer, and the front and center on the camera, I think is why he's a 4-time winner. On the explore.org.
He knows his good side. He knows how to pose
He
for
knows,
the camera.
he knows how to. He hams it up for the camera by doing almost nothing. Occasionally, though, another bear will sort of wander too close to his fishing hole, and he does have to kind of. They have this dominance play thing. They kind of roar at each other, and then kind of ends in snuggling a little bit, which is interesting.
Snuggling with claws and teeth.
Well, these bears are all in the same park, and they kind of know each other, and so, they have a little like, this is my fishing hole, and then they, all right, we're fine. But go check out, again, explore.org. They have so many wildlife video feeds that are, many of them are live all the time, and they have some highlight ones that show you sort of the best of. The rhino sanctuary is my favorite. But you might like the penguins, or there's polar bears.
There's
elephants.
a hippo one.
There's a hippo one. Maybe you want to see a beach covered in walruses. See what walruses are up to when you're not looking.
And there's a puffin chick cam every spring, which I also love to watch. The puffins.
Nice. I like to catch the rhinos right about bedtime. See, so that bear that's wandering on the water, I don't think that's Otis. But if you look to the left and further back, you'll see Otis, the kind of grayish bear, sitting way back there. He does not move from that spot, like all summer. There's bears swimming. There's bears up on the wandering around.
Otis.
There's Otis.
There
That's Otis. He's just hanging out right there, 24/7. Waiting for a fish. Now I gotta tell you, I've watched Otis.
What's going on?
I've probably logged 20 hours or more of Otis watching. This must be on a highlight because I have never. Oh yeah, it's dark there now. So this is a highlight reel. Oh, there he goes. I waited 20 hours.
You missed Otis.
I waited 20 hours to see him even go after a fish. All I saw him do is stare at the water.
He's just enjoying his jacuzzi. Is the thing.
It's not that warm. It's very cold.
Warm, but the jets. There's jets. Is the thing.
Jets. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Otis didn't get your fish. You put out all that energy. Just be patient. That's your key, man. That's your thing.
Well, we hope that they fatten up nicely. Otis is all ready for the winter so that we can see Otis all skinny next spring after they disappear for hibernation. Aw, that's fantastic. Otis did not seem very stressed out. Otis seemed very relaxed.
Yes.
Blair,
He's a very calm bear.
Yeah, but Blair had something to say about stress.
Stress.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me.
So this is a Dartmouth study looking at how stress impacts how we socialize with others. How do you think it impacts how we socialize with others?
Very poorly.
Yes. So we do not a great job of socializing. Do you think you socialize more or less when you're stressed?
I think I socialize less when I'm stressed. Me personally, the N of one, anecdotally, I'm stressed. I don't want to go see people, and if I do, maybe I snap at them, and then I'm like, I need to leave. And
I think I'm the opposite. Okay. Being an extrovert. Like a complete extrovert. Like, I don't have an introverted side.
We noticed.
When I'm stressed out, actually the thing that relaxes me is going and talking to other people about anything other than the things that have been stressing me out.
Well, Justin, that might be stressing those other people out. So actually, Kiki sits with the majority here based on this Dartmouth study. They wanted to look at how feeling stressed impacts the amount we socialize with others. And overall, they found that people who experience more stress in a day socialize less with others the next day, and that this effect can persist for up to 2 days after a stressful day. There have been previous studies with animals like rodents, which have shown that animals prefer not to socialize with peers if they're stressed the day before. This is called stress-induced social avoidance. But to date, it's been very difficult to figure out if humans do that too. We are animals. We are mammals. We use rodents as test subjects for us all the time. So I can't say I'm entirely surprised to hear we follow the trend. Past research has often been based on self-reporting, and so that can be tough. Instead, this is what's really crazy. Speaking of Justin's disclaimer, this was based on mobile phone sensing data. Now, the participants did, in fact, opt in. They were part of this experiment knowingly, but this mobile phone data, both passive and automatic sensing data through something called the Student Life app, they recorded sleep, movement, time spent at home. They also looked at conversation through the mobile phone's microphone. So the actual conversations or sounds weren't recorded, but basically they just would identify how long there was more than one voice happening, essentially. And so through the app, participants were also then asked questions about overall well-being, including stress, once a day at a random time of day between 9 a.m. and 8 p.m. And they reported based on images. Also because apparently images do a better job at identifying emotional levels than kind of a strongly agree, strongly disagree situation. So they had 1 no stress to 16 extreme stress, and they were all based on images. So for example, a peaceful pond might be a 1, and someone pulling their hair out might be a 16. And so based on all of this information, they investigated whether participants' stress, social interactions persisted when they then controlled for sleep, movement, time at home, and other variables that they could kind of control out. And they found there was a correlation between spending more time at home and decreased levels of movement after a stressful day. The opposite was also found to be true: greater social interaction associated with more movement and spending less time at home. But there was not a reverse that was true, where the amount of social interaction could predict stress.
Right.
So
right.
really,
so the amount that you were socializing didn't necessarily predict your stress, but
right.
if you were stressed, that would be predictive of how you would socialize the following day.
Yes. So
yeah.
Stress could correlate to the next day's social activities, but social activities could not correlate to the next day's stress levels. So so basically they were trying to separate out, like, is the social interaction what's making them stressed?
Could also be fixing it. So it's like, it could, like Justin said, it could be relaxing and nice not to be talking about the things that you're stressed about. So maybe, that would affect it. But what I'm wondering is, with the pandemic and people at home, working at home, you're stressed at home, your stress levels are home. And so you're already not seeing people and you're not socializing, and then you're stressed and you're not leaving the house. Like, how did that downward, I'm saying downward spiral, but, that feedback loop of activity and stress, how would that have affected people? And it seems like it would be negatively.
Oh, yeah, and more specifically, I'm curious if they repeated this study now directly after I'm going to say after, in quotes, the pandemic, much later.
Not yet.
Right? I know, right? But all of this to say, like, for me, for example, I 100% identified with Justin here pre-pandemic, where if I was stressed out, I needed to be out with people, socializing. After the last almost 2 years that we have had, I have kind of the opposite response now. And if I have a stressful day, I want to go sit on my couch. And so the pandemic has actually shaped how I respond to stress and changed it.
That's interesting.
I think it's also fair to say that our society is flexible, and the social norms are flexible, and we are flexible. And so I don't think this is 100% the time.
Yeah, to some extent.
Exactly.
But to what you were talking about, Kiki, Don't quote me specifically on the statistic, but my understanding is that 2020 saw a spike by about 20% of domestic homicides. So,
And depression also increased substantially. There
Mhm.
was a study out this last week showing there was a substantial increase in rates of reported depression. So
Mhm.
that in itself,
not good.
on its own, it's like, okay, what leads to those things? And potentially the stress factor
Mhm.
could have been tied into all of that. I would imagine. But
Yeah, so I
I
mean,
think
this
your I
isn't
think your big
specifically
point though,
looking.
Blair.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say I think your big point though is that we are adaptable and that
right.
it's a feedback cycle, but at the same time, it's not one that goes on forever and ever and ever and things just keep
Mhm.
getting worse and worse and worse. It can be
Mhm.
broken at any time and we can change our patterns.
Yeah, and I think the thing
Except for
that
those people doing the homicides.
No, you're going to jail. Yeah.
but what I think what's interesting about this is it's specifically looking at the connection of stress to then social interaction. If there is another study, like kind of what we are talking about now related to the pandemic, of socialization then related to stress, that is a completely different study, right? And
Yeah.
if we can put those pieces together, that can help us do a better job of taking care of people who need it. So
Yep.
if you know that somebody is stressed and their response to that is to isolate, and you know that that person is prone to depression based on isolation, then that is an opportunity for those person's loved ones to kind of like intercede and prevent a feedback loop that could be really harmful. So this is where this could actually turn into some really good preventative science, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that at the point where we can take this information and turn it into preventative steps, activities, therapies, ways to help.
Yeah.
That's where it gets really good. Yeah, but it's also mindfulness notice. Maybe say, "Oh, yesterday was a really stressful day and oh, I'm not going outside today and maybe I should take a walk. Maybe I should have a conversation with somebody,
Or
Maybe
maybe
I
I can
could."
have this day alone, but maybe I shouldn't let it turn into 2 or 3 or 4.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about spider silk. You know how much we love spider silk on this show.
But where's my spider silk everything that I was promised a few decades ago?
Yeah,
Because it still isn't here.
modern day snake oil. It fixes holes in tires.
We're gonna use it
It's-
for everything
It has
eventually
tensile
one
strength.
day.
It's
Don't we have
antibacterial.
goats that are making this, and then we figured out bacteria could? Where is it? Where is my spider silk? Tell me.
Well, one of the things about spider silk is that spider silk has all sorts of fabulous properties, and somebody we know in this show has talked a lot about cool things that spiders do with their silk. Blair,
Who could it have been?
who could it have been? But one claim about spider silk that has remained untested is that it is antimicrobial. That these spiders who are trapping prey and doing all the prey is not deteriorating because there's no microbes. There's an antimicrobial aspect to it that's helping to keep all of the desiccated and sucked dry prey that they're digesting externally, I guess, in the best shape possible, that microbes aren't involved in it because the spider silk is helping things out. However, researchers just publishing in iScience have come out to say they've tested it and oh man, I gotta get to the right window here. And they want to say that myth is busted. They've tested it all out and nope, no antibacterial, antimicrobial properties at all. So they they did a systematic study comparing antimicrobial properties of different silk types from 7 species of spiders across the spider phylogeny. So not all within the same group. And they found bacteria. They didn't find any evidence of antimicrobial properties. So they found they did not find the antimicrobial activity of silk in direct contact and disc diffusion assays against gram-negative E. coli, Pseudomonas putida, and the gram-positive Bacillus subtilis. And staining experiments indicated no antimicrobial effect on contact. And then they looked at the research in the literature and they're like, yep, nope, we did the right methodology, and spider silk is not antimicrobial. We find absolutely no evidence of it. So if somebody else is doing studies out there of this, that's great, because there are obviously more species than 7 across the spider phylogeny. But at the same time, there's no evidence in this systematic study. Spider silk might be awesome for making all sorts of, I don't know, other things like steel replacements and fabrics and really cool stuff, but it's not antimicrobial. So,
And that's okay.
it's fine. It doesn't have to do everything.
Yeah.
It is. It's okay. So moving on from spiders, let's move to other, not insects, even smaller organisms. Justin, you got more bears?
Yeah, in more recent bear news, because that's all I'm covering tonight, apparently. Tardigrades, a.k.a. water bears, the microscopic invertebrates that are best known for being cute and their ability to survive the extreme conditions of being exposed to the vacuum of space, even harmful ionizing solar radiation, and then being returned to Earth and being fine and reproducing, and their offspring being fine too. The tardigrade fossil, however, is exceedingly sparse, partly because they're really, really small, and so they're hard to find, and also because they don't biomineralize. So despite the fact that they live on all of the continents, they live on the land, in the sea, and in fresh water, there's not a great fossil record being able to track back the evolution of the tardigrade.
That's because they're from outer space.
Well, if so, they got here a while ago,
Earth,
because
just like the octopus.
in a paper published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B, researchers describe a new, modern-looking tardigrade fossil that actually represents a new genus and species that they believe is extinct. They found it in a 16-million-year-old lump of amber. And they had to use lasers to get a good look at it. By the way, fun fact, guy that invented the laser did it back in 1960. He created the first laser. 4 years later, 3 other guys got a Nobel Prize for it. They didn't have any idea what it was going to be used for either. Nobody did.
Nope.
Lead author Mark A. Mapilo, who is a PhD candidate feeling pretty good about his chances about getting that PhD now, in the Department of I knew I was going to do that. Department of Organismic and Evolutionary Biology at Harvard University said, the difficulty of working with this amber specimen is that it's far too small for dissecting microscopes. We need a special microscope to fully see the fossil. So generally you have light that's transmitted by dissecting microscopes that works very well to reveal morphology of tiny, tiny things. You might be able to see very well the eggs of a spider in amber or something of this nature. However, this thing only has a total body length of 559 micrometers, slightly over half a millimeter. So at such a small scale, dissecting microscope can only reveal the general morphology of the fossil. So turns out the tardigrade's cuticle, its outer shell, I guess, is made of chitin, which is a fiber. Chitin? Is that how you say it? Okay, thank you.
With a
Chitin.
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 Am I getting closer?
Yes.
So this is a fibrous glucose substance that is the primary component of the cell walls and fungi, which is a fun, interesting thing. It's also the exoskeletons of arthropods, but I didn't know that it was also being utilized the same in fungi. That's a very fun fact. And it also happens to fluoresce really well when excited by lasers, which is what they did. They used lasers to sort of light up the shell and get a much more clear view of the internal morphology. With this method, Mappelo was able to fully visualize two very important characteristics of the fossil, the claws and the foregut of the animal, which is also made out of the same substance. Even though, quoting again Mappelo, even though externally it looked like a modern tardigrade, with confocal laser microscopy, we could see it had unique foregut organization that warranted for us to erect a new genus with this extinct group of tardigrade superfamilies. So, new tardigrade has been discovered, and it's 16 million years old. So, again,
I'm so impressed by researchers who are able to look at a chunk of amber and see something that looks like a weird little smudge and go, no, that's a tardigrade. There is a certain skill there. Our human ability to recognize patterns and be able to see things allows for these kinds of discoveries.
Yeah, and
It's a
my
fleck.
assumption is my assumption is we'll probably, if you're looking right, be able to find many more.
For sure.
Okay, so here's the big lump of amber. It's about the size of a dime. And you can see there's other chunks of detritus. Some of it might be insects. Some of it might be
Looks like a spider up there that's kind of curled up.
Looks like some
Could be.
or some kind of a plant, maybe.
And then there's this little dot that they've zoomed in on. That doesn't look like anything in comparison.
It looks
to the
like
rest
an
of it.
air bubble.
Yeah.
It looks like an air bubble. And you get in there, you zoom in, and there it is. There's a little tardigrade. So I think anybody who's got one of these collections of amber with insects in it, you might have an ancient tardigrade in there. You should take a closer look.
Yeah, everyone's looking for very macro animals, insects in amber. Let's look for the smaller things.
If you've got amber at home, just go ahead and grab your specialized lasers.
Well, you know,
See what you can find.
So he needed the special.
Let's get on it.
They needed the special laser to be able to highlight the morphology in enough detail. However, with just a regular microscope, you should be able to get down close enough to see the outline
dude.
of it.
Look at that. That's not nobody. Okay, I understand this is somebody who's looking for tardigrades. I get that.
Yes.
But for me, looking at a piece of amber, I'm not going to look at that and be like, oh, that's a tardigrade.
Totally.
No, it's a little fleck. It's not, especially the way there's like weird matter clumped up on the bottom. You can't see all the legs, but then if you use the lasers, you see the legs. So the fact that they saw this and they said, oh, that's definitely a tardigrade. No way. That's a very specialized person that can do that. Kind of what Kiki was saying, right? That's not just, you really got to be looking for it.
Well, here's the thing. The image that we have up now, which is almost the outline of a tardigrade. If you see that, actually, you can kind of see the front claw situation going on there, too. If you see that, something similar to that, something approximate, this is your legend, I guess. This is your example that you can identify off of. Now
look for the claws, everybody.
Now
Look for 6 pairs or 3 pairs of little legs with claws, and I don't know, maybe a set of paddle legs. I don't know what that is off the side of the tardigrade, but it's a wonderful example.
And if you have a
of
telescope
our
at home,
technology and
if you have a telescope at home, if you have a microscope at home, Thank you. If you have a microscope at home.
Tardigrades on the moon, everybody.
No, they've been in space. You might need a telescope. If you have a microscope also, you might be accustomed to using it to look at very tiny things for your own amusement or interest. And so, go grab some amber. See if you can find some.
Go get it. And final really quick story I just wanted to pop in here for those of you who've been following the quantum computing advancements. Excuse me. Researchers have published in Nature this week their work in reducing errors in quantum qubits. quantum computers and quantum qubits are known for errors, the misflipped qubit that occurs. And we can't really use quantum computers until we deal with the problem of errors. So these researchers, to create an error-free quantum qubit, created what they call logical qubits, which are really just a combination of like 9 qubits, so that instead of just measuring 1, they're measuring 9. And it's kind of like replication in science, where it's like, oh, you got one result, let's see what happens in all these others. And so it's fact checking based on basically data triangulation. And so they're working this system out to create these logical qubits, which are these combinations of multiple qubits, and then comparing those against other qubits in the computer. It limits the size of the computer at this point in time, but because they're able to get rid of the errors, unfortunately not yet in real time, it's like they go back after the fact and go, oh, that was a mistake. It's like proofreading after the fact at this point. So 2 things they need to do. They need to get it going in real time, so it's not the proofreading kind of error correction, and they need to make the computers bigger. So right now, because of the logical qubit and the way it's set up, it limits the size of the computer and what they can do. But because they're starting to limit errors, this will lead to advancements that will lead us to quantum computers that we're really going to work and will be very accurate. One step at a time, everybody.
Yeah,
quantum computers are coming.
There's the problem, of course. Yeah, they're trying to create an almost quantum-free zone, right?
Right.
What you don't want is a quantum fluctuation taking place in this quantum system.
We want everything to be tied together.
They do, and that's actually
fluctuate.
And that's actually what they're trying to do, is in a weird way, is make these systems tied together within there. But the problem is, there becomes an exponential calculation of processing that needs to then take place. Like you have one, you just need a couple of calculations. Then you have 2 of them in there, and you need 4. Then you got 3. Now you're at 8, and it goes up in that sort of way that we're used to memory having grown over the years of having computers. It's the same thing with these, how many of the you've got in the qubit, right? How many qubits you got involved there. It's the same sort of problem. So the more accurate you make it, the more processor heavy, and then at some point it's like, now I've just made my old computer over again. So, but we are not the too distant future, I think, going to get there with this quantum computing. And then you know what we're going to need? 1 million people who know how to program these things, because the logic is different. The logic is different than classical programming.
Yeah, it
so
is.
If
And that's
you
going to be a whole new doorway. Yeah, a whole new profession. That's going to be cool.
And so start like, hey, if you're into computers but don't want to just be a input slave in the bottom basement of a mega tech company where you're just typing 14 hours a day for no pay and paying high rent because they want to be in the fancy city, go study this stuff. Go start studying quantum programming.
Yeah.
There's
going to be the engineers who build the systems. There are going to be the programmers that work with the systems. A lot of programmers.
You're going to get to be at the beginning of the computer revolution that happened, where all of these people like became wealthy and famous when they got there early on. You can do that if you start going in this direction, studying this type of programming today. It's not going to be the easy transition from the classical.
No. This is This Week in Science. Thank you so much for joining us for another week of science. If you really enjoy the show, share it with a friend today. All right, let's now jump into a segment of the show we haven't done for a couple of weeks, the COVID update. All right, everybody. Some good news. Some very good news, actually. This last week, Merck announced the results of trials that they have been working on with an antiviral drug of theirs called Molnupiravir. Molnupiravir, according to their results, reduced the risk of hospitalization or death by approximately 50% compared to placebo for patients with mild or moderate COVID-19 in their phase 3 clinical trial.
Nice.
Yeah, and Molnupiravir didn't come just out of the blue. It is an antiviral that they had started working on for the flu. So it actually is kind of meant to be a broad spectrum antiviral. So they've been testing it in other experiments and other tests against different SARS viruses, against MERS, and it seems to be successful broadly against SARS viruses and MERS, other coronaviruses. So it could be used very successfully should another coronavirus pop out that poses an issue.
Mm.
At this point in time, they have to still submit all their data to the FDA to apply for an emergency use authorization for it. So don't expect anything for, probably a month or two for things to get really going and for it to become available. Unlike remdesivir, which is another antiviral that is being used for people in hospitals, which is an infusion, these are pills. And so
Mhm.
you have like 2 pills a day for 5 days. And this Molnupiravir costs about $700 for a whole suite of these pills. And it could help people fight off COVID if they get infected.
So I
interesting-
really like the idea that antivirals after all this will get kind of a boost.
Yeah.
And that they'll get kind of surged ahead in their efficacy and in the testing, because it would be great if after all this, first of all, like you were saying, when the next coronavirus comes around, we have something to use. But also, it would be pretty cool if we did have something that would help us fight off flu. And then also
Yeah.
just very surface level, it'd be really cool to have something that would kind of take the wind out of the common cold. That would be great. I would love it.
It would be, yeah. If we have something that generally is good against lots of different viruses and isn't like, extremely expensive, $700 isn't anything to scoff at. But if it's something that could potentially be covered by insurance, if it's something that when you get into the hospital, this is something that'll really help. Like stuff like this is what we need. So it's great.
It's the first one too. So like once they get further research and more companies throw their hat in the ring, the price will go down a little.
For sure.
Hopefully.
Oh.
Hopefully. Ha. Hopefully.
Okay, so I'm kind of curious. I don't know if it says so specifically in this study. Was this 50% efficacy on unvaccinated people who were at the hospital? Or is that who's the only folks going to the hospital? Probably.
It was, as far as I know, it's people in the hospital. So I believe
Okay.
that most likely they were unvaccinated.
Okay.
Still, the best prevention for getting COVID-19 is vaccination at this
Yes.
point in time. That is the best prevention. This Molnupiravir is not preventative. This is treatment. So it's something you get infected, you can take the treatment, and it can help keep you from having severe disease and dying.
This is the wrong time for me. You look exasperated. This is the wrong time for me to bring up that I'm a little bit scared of broad antivirals. It's a little bit scary to me because we're just learning so much about microbiome from the bacterial perspective.
So let me tell you.
And so,
let me tell you how the mechanism of Molnupiravir, and
yes.
then you can tell me your concern. And there are people who are concerned that the clinical studies have not to date contained enough people for us to really be certain that there are not any bad side effects. So far, no major side effects have been reported. It's successful and it just works great, according to Merck. But Molnupiravir is what they call a ribonucleoside analog. So what that means is they give you the pills get in, and they basically pretend to be a cytidine base. And so it gets incorporated into the viral RNA. And so it basically creates an error in the viral RNA because it gets incorporated instead of a T. So it's a C that's like a fake C because it's the drug instead of a T base pair. And so it causes an error in the RNA that codes for the virus. And so it inhibits replication of the virus. The concern is that because it is active as a ribonucleoside analog within human cells, that it could be confused for a ribonucleoside in human genetic replication. So that in cellular processes, it could be incorporated accidentally and lead to errors that inhibit translations, transcription processes. To date, this has not been seen, but it is a concern of researchers.
Okay, but and that wasn't actually my concern. My concern would have been my concern would be that it
We
would
should be concerned about the people.
Yeah. I'm concerned about the people. My curiosity. I don't even know if it's a concern at this point.
There we go. Curiosity.
But my
Great.
curiosity is it has more to do about we still getting to learn about beneficial viruses and what beneficial viruses are doing in our bodies. And so there's a little bit of me when we're talking about antivirals in the same way that we've discussed antibiotics in the past,
Right,
not
broad
knowing or
spectrum,
understanding a broad spectrum antibiotic, and then just not having any knowledge of what the gut microbiome was even doing when we were trying to kill it all off, along with the bad thing, which you got to do from time to time. So
It's fine. Just have some viral yogurt afterwards. You'll be fine.
Right.
Yeah, really good. Go lick a flagpole.
Yeah.
But what I'm suggesting is that I also hope, as we've done all this, as Blair was talking, all this new antiviral research is being done. My hope is we'll actually also be getting some good microviral biome research thrown in there to kind of learn what's supposed to be there, and maybe that's what's supposed to be there can also preventing other viruses from getting in. Who knows? This is kind of what I'm also curious about.
There are so many questions. There are so many questions. We need all the people to go into science and study all the things. But the big thing right now is that we do know that Molnupiravir, it works. It's successful in limiting hospitalization, severe disease, death in people with COVID-19. That is potentially a great thing, and it could be a wonderful tool in our toolbox for helping to save people's lives. But there are lots of questions. Ale Legolas in Twitch chat room is saying, would that be a possible cause for cancer and mutations? We don't know. Possibly. I mean, if the ribonucleoside from the drug gets incorporated into human DNA, is that what's happening? We have not seen that yet. And so since we haven't seen it yet, hey, that's great. Maybe our cellular system is smart enough to tell the difference, whereas a viral replication machinery mechanism is not smart enough.
But it also sounds pretty specific because you also have to understand
it is very specific.
You eat all sorts of DNA.
Oh, we eat it
all
all
the time.
Yes, we're eating stuff. Exactly.
Don't be afraid of the idea that you ingest tremendous amounts of RNA from all sorts. Have you? I don't look anymore like a cow or a chicken.
It, and yes, we got all sorts of stuff.
I'm not plant based either at this point. So it's also you also don't have to take it to an illogical conclusion.
Further on this, published in JAMA this month, Surveillance for Adverse Events After COVID-19 mRNA Vaccination. They looked at 6.2 million people who received 11.8 million doses of an mRNA vaccine. And they looked for 23 different serious health outcomes and found that they were not significantly higher for people within 1 to 21 days after vaccination. So even looking at stuff like that has been reported, like myocarditis, they did not see a concerning level of risk or increase for individuals looking at this massive data set of 11.8 million injections. And then even beyond that, another study that just came out in clinical infectious disease found in a mouse model for those people who have suffered from the acute myoperiocarditis, which is an inflammation of the membrane that surrounds the heart and has been an issue for young men mostly after getting vaccinated with the mRNA vaccines, and still much less so than for individuals who have been infected by COVID-19. It's still higher risk for myocarditis with COVID-19 than with vaccination. But what they found is that with muscular injections of the mRNA vaccine in mice, that if the vaccine got into a vein and became accidentally an intravenous injection, the mice got myopericarditis. And so they're thinking that in these rare cases that there's the possibility that you're jabbing this needle into the muscle and it's hitting a vein possibly, or, going through a capillary, getting in somewhere that it's not supposed to necessarily and causing this inflammation.
All the more reason to get the shot in the butt.
There's even just big muscle. Yeah. So what they say, their conclusions from this study, the study provided in vivo, in living animal, evidence that inadvertent intravenous injection of COVID-19 mRNA vaccines may induce myopericarditis. Brief withdrawal of syringe plunger to exclude blood aspiration may be one possible way to reduce such risk. So instead of just jabbing the needle in and squirting the vaccine in, take a second to pull the plunger out if you are delivering the vaccine to see if there's blood. And if there is, you know that you've hit a vein.
Take two.
Sorry, got to do it again. Don't want you to have heart inflammation. So
that's good information. That should probably get out there.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's very interesting. I mean, this is still caveat in mice, but it's not something that would, it could only positively affect people to make that slight change, especially when vaccinating young men.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to hurt to make sure you're not giving a shot into the veins. It's not there's literally nothing like that's not. There's only positives there. This isn't something where you have to sit and wait to collect all the data and get it peer reviewed and figure all this stuff out. Just do a little plunger pull. That's easy. That's a very easy thing to get out there and ask people to do. So I hope that happens.
Right. And if that can change the prevalence of these very rare cases, that could be, it's still going to be a massive result. It could be really helpful to people. That's what I had for the COVID update. Does anyone else have COVID-y news? No. Yeah. Well,
it's over. I said before it's over. So
you people. It's not over yet as much as we like it to be.
It's the same thing as over. It's never going away.
Exactly. It's just getting down to a regular tide, right? We've got the waves on top of the tide, and we got the big waves, and we get this disease. We're going to learn how to live with it. That's what we're doing right now. So thank you to vaccines. Thank you to antivirals. If anyone you know needs someone to talk to get convinced for vaccination, if anyone you know has questions about vaccination and you are tired of talking and you think it might help, let them know about us and see if they ask, we're here. I'm here. I'm willing to answer questions. All right. This is This Week in Science. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode. Thank you for listening. It's really wonderful that you take time out of your week to share that time with us, to spend it with us, to put us in your ears, to let us put the science in your head. Really glad that you chose TWIS this week. Once again, if you do appreciate what we do every week, please consider heading over to twis.org and clicking on that Patreon link. Patreon allows us to continue doing what we're doing. By supporting us at $10 a month or more, you will be thanked by name at the end of the show and get some nice little gifts in the mail. Thank you for your support. Help us continue to bring science and sanity to the world, to even more people. It would be really great to be able to reach even more people with your help. We really couldn't do it without you. And now we're coming back with This Week in Science to that part of the show that we love to call Blair's Animal Corner.
With Blair.
She loves our creatures, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. If you want to hear about animals, she's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels. There's Animal Corner.
What you got, Blair?
Oh my gosh, we've arrived. It's worm milk time.
What does that
worm
even
milk. Who wants warm
mean?
worm milk?
I mean, so everyone listening, watching, wherever you are around the world, if you're eating breakfast, if you're eating any meal, but specifically if you're eating breakfast, I suggest you put the spoon down to enjoy this amazing story.
Wow.
This is from University College of London. This is looking at C. elegans, our buddies. C. elegans, the worms that we use to study to figure out how to prevent aging, something near and dear to my heart. Their lifespan can be massively increased by gene manipulation, up to 10-fold. We know this. If we can figure out how this works, this could help us slow human aging, of course. So, in the latest attempt to unlock the key to long life through C. elegans, scientists have discovered that as worm mothers age, they secrete a milk-like fluid through their vulva that is consumed by their offspring and supports growth. This is both a selfless and sacrificial act, and it helps explain a number of mysteries that scientists have had about this nematode worm. It's both a form of primitive lactation, which only a few other invertebrates have been shown to do, and a form of reproductive suicide. Why? Because as worm mothers milk themselves to death, they are sacrificing their internal organs and tissues. When they run out of reproductive material, they have both male and female reproductive organs. So the females will reproduce by fertilizing themselves with a very limited stock of sperm. And when the sperm runs out, within days of sexual maturity, they stop reproduction. They have nothing else to use, right? Then they generate large quantities of yolk-rich fluid. Yolk-rich fluid, which accumulates in large pools inside their bodies. It destructively consumes their internal organs. They lay more than their own body weight in unfertilized eggs. The previous assumption was this is just a mistake, basically. Like their body was dying and it just kind of blah. But now, this is part of this worm milk. They're destroying themselves in the process of transferring nutrients to offspring. The unfertilized eggs are full of yolk milk. Yolk milk! So they are acting like milk bottles. The baby worms do in fact eat them. It helps keep those worms alive. This milk-like fluid appears to benefit those young worms. They found larvae indeed ingesting worm milk, and that when they have access to milk, they grow more quickly. So this is a new way that has been discovered that C. elegans maximizes evolutionary fitness. This is important because it comes at a time when they cannot reproduce anymore. So what else can they do to give their DNA a kind of a boost? And it is to basically destroy themselves to improve the fitness of those babies. Once they've run out of sperm, what do? Oh, of course, I melt down my own tissues to turn into yolk milk to transfer to my offspring.
Let me be the giving worm.
Yes.
Oh my
So,
goodness. It really is. It is the giving tree story, but it's a worm.
yes, that secretes yolk milk out of its vulva, indeed. So,
Mhm.
this is
I
important
mean-
because this seems to have a genetic location and origin that is related to what gets messed around with when they're able to extend these nematodes' lives. So really where this gets interesting, besides just being a crazy thing that has been learned, is that this might be the key to them being able to extend the lives of C. elegans. So if really all they're doing is turning off suicidal reproduction, then this doesn't actually help us figure out how to make us live longer. So this is a really important key to figure out. If this is what they were effective, they were turning off suicidal reproduction by increasing their age, then really we learned nothing in relation to extending our own lives. Lead author Professor David Gems said, quote, "In the end, what is critically important is to understand the principles that govern the process of C. elegans aging and explain the cause of age-related disease more generally. We don't yet understand this for any organism. But for C. elegans, we're getting there, and the discovery of worm milk gets us another step closer."
So worm milk is not like a technical term, is it?
No, there's no lactose in it.
No.
It's actually yolk milk is a closer thing to say. If you want to call it worm yolk milk, that's probably the most accurate. It's really just yolk. Basically, it's
yolk secretions.
They are dissolving their internal tissues and organs to create yolk-filled unfertilized eggs for baby worms to eat.
Mm-hmm.
If that's better.
Here are your snacks. They are part of me.
Yeah, and now I die.
I am you.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just thought you all might really appreciate that. And now you can go back to cooking, eating. I don't know. Maybe can you? I hope you're not shopping at the grocery store right now in front of the dairy aisle.
Every mother is sitting looking at their child right now.
Yeah.
Thinking, I am yolk
You're
milk.
dissolving me from the
inside. You are dissolving me.
Being consumed. Yeah, so that was my worm milk story. Any questions?
So
should I just move on to something silly?
Just tell the mothers out there, it could be worse.
It could be worse.
Yeah.
But it could be worse, but at the same time, yeah, we're not worms. But there is a lot to be learned from the worms, especially when it comes to, like you were saying, Blair, aging, longevity, figuring out whether or not we can affect some of these genes that are involved.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just really wanted to spend some time with the worm yolk milk. But now I'll move on to a silly story. It's nice and quick. It's from Tel Aviv University. And it was some researchers who wanted to figure out why women are always colder than men. Why are women always cold? And men are like walking around in t-shirts and shorts. And women are like, turn the heat up. Like, give me a blanket. Which like might not be a universal truth, but it is a common experience.
Yeah.
And so researchers at Tel Aviv University School of Zoology want to offer an evolutionary explanation to this phenomenon. In fact, their research has shown that it is not unique to humans. Many male species of endotherms, specifically looking at birds and mammals, prefer cooler temperatures than females. And so they have theories, but I'll explain what they did. They had a statistical and spatial analysis of distribution of birds and bats. This was all over Israel. Israel is a great place to do it because they have an insane variability in temperatures and types of habitats, and lots of birds and bats that are native. Birds and bats were also a great choice to look at because they fly. They're very mobile, and so it allows for a lot of spatial separation between the sexes. So all of that to say, they could see kind of a nice microcosm of what birds and bats are doing in terms of males and females and preferred temperatures. In migratory birds, males spend the winter in colder areas than females. In many mammals, even in ones that have pairs or mixed groups for all of their lives, males would prefer shade, where females preferred sunlight. Males sometimes would go higher up mountains. Females would remain in the valleys. And this was over 40 years of research on thousands of birds and 11,000 individual birds and bats in this study. So this is a pretty widespread study. And so they propose that this is a built-in evolutionary difference between heat-sensing systems in the two sexes, which is related, among other things, to reproduction and caring for offspring. So there are certain times that segregation is really helpful in species between males and females, and so this might actually be something that is being pushed based on these temperature differentials. They say there's a lot of previous research on different pain sensations and experiences and neural mechanisms between males and females within a species. And so this could be just another sensing difference in males and females, right? And so this could help with reduced competition over environment, especially in species where males can become aggressive towards babies. But also females are often the ones that are trying to maintain body temperature of babies before they can temperature regulate on their own. And so there might be a reason that females would spend more time in the warmer areas because of that. So they're just kind of accustomed to it from rearing young. And so this is the craziest thing. One of the lead researchers said, quote, the bottom line is, going back to the human realm, we can say that this difference in thermal sensation did not come about so that we could argue with our partners over air conditioning, but rather the opposite. It is meant to make the couple take some distance from each other so that each individual can enjoy some peace and quiet. So that's a leap, I think. But I do think it's interesting that males and females have different temperature preferences in bats and birds as well as in humans.
I think that's probably one of the most interesting points there is that, okay, these temperature differences that we argue about, I need the warmer side of the bed, I need another blanket or whatever. Mm-hmm. Turn the air conditioner up, turn the air conditioner down. These things we think of as very human behavioral dynamics, that they're not. They're maybe more, they're not even just mammalian. Mm-hmm. They're across different different taxa. And so I think that's fascinating. But the idea that part of it is evolutionarily on purpose to keep males and females apart, that there's potentially a benefit for females to, when we've talked about lions and other bears, other animals where the males can be aggressive and they seek out young so that they can kill them and have another chance with the female for reproduction. And so if you think about it, maybe it's like, okay, I got it. Yeah, that was nice and cozy. I gotta go now. All right, see you later. I'm gonna protect my kids. Yeah. Maybe that's where it came from. Who knows?
This is definitely one of those cause and effect questions where it could also be the other way. It could be that there are internal processes
bring us
that
together.
Require the females to have a higher temperature than males, and it has nothing to do with needing to separate them.
Yes, we're attributing value, or
Yeah.
where maybe there is no behavioral value. What were you going to say, Justin?
I was just going to say, it just seems like everybody might be overthinking it. It might just be an evolutionary adaptation.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hey,
absolutely.
like I'm nice and warm. But would you like to snuggle?
Right?
Like,
Right. Maybe it's
that
better
just-
for relationships.
Yeah. I think that's just like men were like, woman won't lie with me in cave. And then the warmer guys over the years, they were the ones who were like, they were successful because they were natural sex. I don't know.
That's the thing. We don't know.
No.
We don't know the answer to it.
certainly
It's
don't.
all figuring out these evolutionary reasonings. Is it
Yeah.
behavior? Is it social? Is it physiology? But that's super fun.
And the last thing I will just mention is that
it's
a lot
widespread.
of reptiles have temperature dependent sex determination.
Mhm.
So there is a fundamental difference in the way an animal develops in reptiles
based on
what
temperature.
temperature they're at. So
Yeah.
there is no reason that evolutionarily that's a carryover of some
And
sort.
and perhaps it is better for reproduction if women have lower temperatures. Maybe it's better
Hotter
for that
temperatures.
cell division and for everything to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Maybe that's all it is. Yeah. I think it's funny that one of the lead researchers though is
Peace
like,
and quiet.
"Hey."
Okay.
It's an evolutionary reason to
Right.
have separate beds.
It's the evolutionary reason that I need a den. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for that, Blair.
Yeah.
This is This Week in Science. And you know what this time of year is? This time of year always brings Blair's Animal Corner calendars. We now have a link on the website. So if you head over to twis.org, you can get yourself an order for the TWIS Blair's Animal Corner calendars for 2022. Head on over, get your orders in today. Justin, what stories do you have for us?
Okay, so this is it's a very small finding. There's an anatomically modern human jaw was discovered in Sulawesi, Indonesia. Sulawesi, I think, is the island of where Indonesia is. It's kind of confusing, the maps down there. There's also just next to Kalimantan, if you're familiar, which is also Burma, which is also Malaysia, I think. There's like a lot of... They're still figuring out all the names. They're still working on all the names. But this big island, which I think Indonesia is on, there is a jaw that they've dated between 16 to 25,000 years old, and is a very rare find. It's I think the oldest one on the Sulawesi island that they've discovered at this point, of a modern, complete, an anatomically modern human. They recovered these elements consisting of basically the complete palate and the frontal process of a human right side of the jaw. It belonged to an elderly individual. They haven't been able to age or sex it, which is usually something you can do with teeth. These teeth are very small, which might make you assume it was young, except that it exhibits very severe wear and a lot of dental pathologies that push it into that more elderly age. So they're having some issues dating the age exactly, sexing it. It's small, which is the teeth are smallish, which is sort of weird. They have some aboriginal, native-looking aspects to them, but it's still a curiosity. It's still sort of an interesting find, especially where it is. This is right in the crossroads of where we're finding Homo floresiensis, where we're finding there's like another hobbit, like right in the same area. I forgot what the name of that one is. This is also where we have this very distinct line between the Papuan lineages and an East Asian lineage. This is also an area where everybody's got some Denisovin. This is also the area where it's thought that the Aboriginals of Australia would have progressed through at some point in order to reach Australia. So it's this very interesting area. So they found this skull. It's one of the oldest that they found of a modern human. But now, what I really want them to do, they go into great lengths describing the morphology and to get some DNA. They don't even talk about the because that's still to come. Hopefully,
they have teeth, so they can hopefully get DNA and dentin out of the teeth and get some information.
Yeah, and they may have more, finds there. So this was a site that they were digging in that they initially had found burned animal bones and some small signs of at least what looked like the manufacture of stone tools, if not the stone tool artifacts themselves. So they had some clues towards human habitation, but they haven't found. This is the first human find that they've got there. So they're hoping that there's a burial site somewhere nearby, that this might have been displaced at some point slightly. So they're going to be going through this area and digging more and more. But the Sulawesi site, I'm kind of excited about it. Hopefully they'll find more. Hopefully they can get some DNA extracted from some of this. Because this island story is pretty wild. They do have findings of stone tools elsewhere on the island that are like 18 to 194,000 years old. There are stone artifacts and technologies that are straightforwardly not associated with human fossils that they have found near them. So the identity of who made them is unknown, but it's been kind of thought that this could be Denisovans that were there, that they may have been present in that period of time. So there could be also overlap in time between Denisovans. Some evidence on the northern part of the islands are saying maybe 30,000 to as recent as 14,500 years ago. There could have been Denisovans. That, which if correct, both means that they were there at the same time as humans, because now we're finding atomically modern humans in that area. Could also be kind of curious because it means that Denisovans would have been capable of some major sea crossing, so that instead of Denisovan modern human admixture happening sort of more on a mainland of Asia, that they could have actually been taking place on islands. Again, or this could be people who had admixed, who had moved. So we could be talking about a hybrid thing. So there's all sorts of interesting things that can get unraveled once this fossil, and hopefully others can be found, can answer. Finally, there's an element
You
to
need
this
more
story.
than one for sure.
Yeah, there's an element to this that's also interesting. In the region, there are early human ghosts species. There are ghost species that can be inferred from patterns of archaic integration into the genomes of the modern day people there in various parts of the island, Southeast Asia, Melanesia, and the wider region, that we don't have currently identified as Neanderthal or Denisovan and aren't associated with any other lineage of modern human. Now, could this be something along the lines of the Homo floresiensis or the other one, which name I keep forgetting, which I got to learn because it's going to come up again? Maybe those are some of those ghost lineages. Maybe it's something else. So there's a whole bunch of exciting stuff we got to learn out of Sulawesi.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Did you have something else?
Oh, yeah, I almost forgot. Just good news.
Woohoo!
Healthcare edition. I just pulled this one up while we were doing the show because I totally had missed it ahead of time. Somebody in the chat pointed out. So I found just good news story this week, and this one has to do with healthcare. Turns out Americans are investing more in being healthy. This is, where did this come from? This is from the Healthcare Cost Institute Annual Healthcare Cost and Utilization Report, it finds that we spent 2.9% more per person on healthcare in the United States in 2019. And that between 2015 and 2019, we increased our investment in healthcare by 21.8%, or $1,074 per person. While
Our investment, huh?
Yeah, well, utilization of healthcare services declined slightly in 2019. We still had an increase.
So we like healthcare. We're not using it as much. That's great, but we're putting more money into it.
Because we love to be healthy. That's how I'm reading it. People are spending, it increased over that 5-year period that they studied between 2015 and 2019, 14.8% more today in 2019 than they did in 2015. Prices only increased 10.5%, while the professional services increased 3.9% over those years. It's sort of interesting. In outpatient services, pricing increased 31.4%. Oh, these are prices, not necessarily just based on spending. Inpatient admission costs grew 30.8%. Spending on prescription drugs increased 28.4% over the 5 years. This is just talking about the cost increases, not that people are using healthcare more. We actually are kind of trying to avoid it for some reason.
We're avoiding it because it's really expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, healthcare costs are increasing. We're spending more money on healthcare, but we're not using it as much, probably because we are avoiding it because it's expensive.
So
This
we're
is
not
not good
focusing
news,
on
Justin.
preventative care.
But we're
then
trying
we
to be
end up paying
healthy.
more in the end.
You know what? It's probably supply and demand. Like more people are going to get checkups or something. Except it's less. It's declining.
Yeah, no one went to the doctor last year.
Well, COVID's a little bit different. Nobody was going.
All right.
So
is it
not
too soon
really
to talk
good news.
about? Yeah. Is it? Because. All right. That's the last time I try to find the just good news story while the show is already going, because that did not work. That did not work out well. I thought that was because it was like Americans are spending more on their health. I thought it was like, yes, finally people are doing good things with their money. But it turned out we were just paying more for the same or less, actually, service.
Paying more and getting less. The American dream. Meanwhile, some really good news, potentially. The World Health Organization has green-lit a malaria vaccine. The vaccine is a bit controversial because it does only have 30% effectiveness. It takes 4 shots to really be effective in kids, but when used with other treatments and other prophylactics, it can reduce incidence of disease, hospitalization, death by 60 to 70%. So it is another tool in the toolbox. So the World Health Organization has said, yes, let's use it. And this will allow it to be distributed throughout Africa and malaria-prone regions and hopefully save lots of lives. Fingers crossed. We'll see where that goes. In other really good news, or interesting news, very good news for one person, potentially great news for more people if it works generally. Researchers reported this last week in Nature their use of deep brain stimulation to treat depression in a woman. The woman had not reacted well to any other treatments for depression. Nothing else seemed to work. And the researchers said, well, let's try this deep brain stimulation. Let's see if it helps. The Researchers previously have tried deep brain stimulation to try and treat depression, and it has not really had great results. But the difference this time is that the researchers took the time to measure her brain activity while she was experiencing depressive thoughts, depressive incidents throughout her day. And so every time she would have a depressive thought, she would mark it and say, I'm having a depressive thought. And they would take a look at what was happening activity wise within her brain. And so they got a recording of that and plugged that in to their stimulator so that the stimulator reacts to that specific brain activity as opposed to just stimulating a particular area of the brain. So it is very specifically unique to this one woman. But the treatment made her smile and laugh for the first time in what she said was as long as she could remember. It is successful, has been successful for this woman, successfully treating her depression to the point where she's able to have her negative thoughts interrupted by the brain stimulation so that they don't continue their feedback loop, so that she doesn't get into a depressive spiral. The researchers are saying that they hope that they will be able to do this kind of work in more people in the future. This is for sure the kind of thing that is a last-ditch effort because it is implanting something into the brain. It's very invasive, and if people can respond to drug treatments, then that's going to be better, hopefully, than going to deep brain stimulation. But the researchers at the University of California, San Francisco, said that they're really starting to recognize some of the complexity involved in how mood is regulated in the brain as a network. Sarah, she said, "When I first received stimulation, I felt the most intensely joyous sensation, and my depression was a distant nightmare for a moment. I just laughed out loud. It's the first time I had spontaneously laughed or smiled in 5 years."
This is interesting. I feel like it's based on the same basic theory as shock treatment, like electric shock treatment. Like you're trying to interrupt the negative thoughts.
Yeah.
But that's using a hammer, and this is using a scalpel, right? So you're basically just saying just stop everything, as opposed to oh, let's interrupt this very specific brainwave at this very specific moment. That's really interesting. I love that.
Yeah. And hopefully this can treat more people. This device is used normally to treat epilepsy. It's the NeuroPace RNS system. They've adapted it, and it costs about 26,000 pounds, $35,000. But they're hoping to recruit more people for a larger trial to see if this can be more broadly successful than previous efforts.
So this would be like a pacemaker. It would be something that is self-sustaining inside your brain.
Yeah.
That learns your own brain patterns. Wow.
Yep.
Wild.
Yeah. So it's trained to you, not to anybody else. But yes, it would recognize certain patterns of activity, interrupt those patterns of activity when they arise, and hopefully allow you to interact with the world where normally you would not be able to.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very, very cool. Really, it's existing technology being used in a slightly different way. It's got a little different spin on it. It's this personalized medicine, and hopefully that can be very helpful. And then my final story for the night. Maybe if you're constipated, we can treat you and make your memory better.
What?
Do you have to be constipated?
Yeah, it's like that the prerequisite to getting a better memory?
Don't think you have to be constipated. But these researchers publishing, they reported at the European Society of Neuropsychopharmacology meeting, and they've also published their work in translational psychiatry. They used a 5-HT4, which is serotonin receptor agonist. There are multiple different forms of serotonin receptors. It's like serotonin is a key that can fit multiple slightly different locks, and when it gets into these different locks, it has a slightly different effect. And 5-HT4 is a receptor that in the brain has been shown to be involved in cognitive functioning and memory. And there's a lot of 5-HT4 receptors involved in like the hippocampus and amygdala and areas related to memory formation. Well, it's also in the gut, and a compound called prucalopride is an agonist of the 5-HT4 receptor. It gets in there, binds to the receptor, and in the gut, it treats constipation. When it gets into the brain, according to this study, it improves your memory.
Okay.
It changes brain activity because it's stimulating these same receptors, just in different locations. So in this study, their volunteers for the study were not constipated, just normal people, but they got the constipation drug. So my question that has not been answered adequately in the paper or anywhere is whether or not they were more regular after this study or during the study. But after just 6 days of prucalopride, they had improvements in their ability to remember images during a trial situation.
Explosive diarrhea.
I know. I hope not.
So then, okay, so immediately then I'm like trying to do the what came first thing. So if somebody deals with frequent constipation, is there higher generation of this that's being utilized to attempt to treat constipation? And then when the constipation is overcome, does this then migrate to the brain?
No, it's in the bloodstream. If you take it,
Because,
you take it as a pill, right? And
I
then
don't
it gets
mean- I don't mean that-
systemically, it's going to go to the gut, and it also apparently can get into the brain as well.
But I don't mean it as the drug. I mean, if this is something, I'm talking about the natural formation of this to fight, to get somebody unblocked.
What do you mean the natural formation?
What isn't this? I thought you said that this is utilized to the body's uses this to combat.
No. So so in the gut, the activation of these serotonergic receptors leads to increased motility, and the pushing, the gut moves things out.
But this is not. But the serotonin or whatever it is not doing that naturally.
Serotonin, yes. Serotonin will naturally be involved in that in the natural process. And so this drug basically adds more. It's like getting more serotonin, but it's not serotonin.
Right. So my question, though, is being constipated generating more serotonin in the gut to attempt to overcome it? And then once overcome, does it get into the bloodstream, go to the brain, and give you a better memory? Because then you know what I want to do? No, here's the thing.
No.
I now want to study people who have frequent constipation and see what their memory is like.
I want to know if people who are on this drug on a regular basis have improved memories.
Okay, that would be that's fine.
Step one.
Step one. You take this drug for constipation. Has it helped your memory as well?
I want to test the memories of people with IBS. I have a feeling some of the most hallowed halls of physics and computer programming have a lot of people texting from the bathroom.
Possible.
Right. And I'm starting to
formulate a hypothesis there, Justin.
This was Josiah
Go
Sanders'
ahead
problem,
and
remember?
do an experiment.
Okay. I think it's a good study. If somebody's looking for a study, I would see if there's a correlation between memory skills and IBS or frequent constipation.
IBS covers a lot of things, though.
The constipation one. Then.
Yeah, you have to be specific.
Yes, people who get.
So the researchers, they're wondering whether or not to get better results, if they need to increase the dose of the drug compound in their studies. They need to see if they can replicate these findings again. This is just a proof of concept. So they had one study prior that led them to doing this one. It's still just very proof of concept. There are a lot of questions to ask here. But yeah, potentially prucalopride might clear you up and get your brain working too. Woo woo.
Rock Hagland thinks I'm conflating memory with intelligence. No, they're not the same thing. I totally agree. However, I've met people with photographic memories who always have imposter syndrome because they feel like they're cheating a little bit. Like people who have real photographic memories, take a look at something, walk away from it, and not having read it, now can read through a page of material because they looked at it. Don't like to mention that because they know other people can't, and they have this weird imposter syndrome where like, I'm just doing it because I can still read it now, not because I know the material. Like somebody else might know the material even though they don't have the memory of it. It's this really interesting thing. I don't know how many of these folks you've met. I've met a good handful of them and had these crazy conversations about this stuff. But having a really good memory, especially when you're dealing with large data sets or information, like doctors typically have to have really good memories. People working with large data sets of information have to have really good memories to be effective in those roles. So it's not a complete conflation, but there is a very useful tool for humans to have really good memories.
It's a great tool to have. We need good memories. Memories that helps us get through so many things in life. And when our memories begin to fail us, it makes life much harder. I do hope that tonight's show has unblocked some people and, helped your cognitive processes, and, that TWIS is stimulating your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. Did we do it? Have we made it through all the stories? Did anyone have anything else?
Did.
We made it. We did it. Oh my goodness. I would love to thank everyone for being here and being a part of the show tonight, listening in. Fada, thank you for help with social media and show notes. Identity 4, thank you for recording the show. Gord, I want to say thank you, and Arnlore as well. Thank you for helping in the chat, and making sure everything runs kindly in there. And additionally, thank you to Rachel for editing the show and helping create little bits and pieces for social media. Got audiograms, folks. And most of all, thank you to our Patreon sponsors. Thank you to Kent Northcote, Rick Loveman, Pierre Velazarb, Ralph E. Figueroa, John Ratnaswamy, Carl Kornfeld, Karen Tazi, Woody MS, Andre Bissett, Chris Wozniak, Dave Bunn, Vegard Shefstad, Hal Snyder, Jonathan Stiles, a.k.a. Don Stylo, John Lee, Ali Coffin, Maddie Perrin, Gaurav Sharma, Shubru, Don Mundus, Stephen Albaran, Daryl Myshak, Stu Pollock, Andrew Swanson, Fred S104, Sky Luke, Paul Ronovich, Kevin Reardon, Noodles, Jack, Brian Carrington, Matt Bass, Sean and Nina Lamb, John McKee, Greg Riley, Matt Hessenflow, Gene Tellier, Steve Leisman, a.k.a. Zima, Ken Hayes, Howard Tan, Christopher Rappin, Dana Pearson, Richard, Brendan Minish, Johnny Gridley, Kevin Railsback, Rami Day. There's a lot of letters there. Flying Out, email me if you have a pronunciation that you would like me to use for your name. Flying Out, Christopher Dreyer, Artyom, Greg Briggs, John Atwood, Hey Arizona, support Aaron Lieberman for governor, Rudy Garcia, Dave Wilkinson, Rodney Lewis, Paul, Mallory Sutter, Philip Shane, Kurt Larson, Craig Landon, Mountain Sloth, Jim Trapo, Sarah Chavez, Sue Doster, Jason Olds, Dave Neighbor, Eric Knapp, E.O., Kevin Parachan, Aaron Luthen, Steve DeBell, Bob Calder, Marjorie, Paul Disney, David Simmerly, Patrick Pecoraro, Tony Steele, Ulysses Adkins, and Jason Roberts. Thank you for all of your support on Patreon. And if you would like to support us on Patreon, head over to twis.org and click on the Patreon link. On what next week's show?
We will be back Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, broadcasting live from our YouTube and Facebook channels and from twis.org/live.
Hey, do you want to listen to us as a podcast? Maybe listen back to this week's Blair's Animal Corner while you cook your breakfast. Just search for This Week in Science wherever podcasts are found. If you enjoyed the show, you can get your friends to subscribe as well.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes and links to stories will be available on our website, www.twis.org, where you can also sign up for a newsletter.
And you can buy the 2022 Blair's Animal Corner calendar there as well. You can also contact us directly. Email Kirsten at kirsten@thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, or me, Blair, at blairbaz@twis.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, in the subject line, or you know where your email's going to go. It's going to go into a worm yolk milk sack. I will never read it.
Oh, but if worm yolk milk sacks aren't your thing, you can find us on Twitter, where we are at TWIS Science, at Dr. Kiki, at Jacksonfly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that comes due tonight, please let us know.
We'll be back here next week, and we hope you'll join us again for more great science news.
And if you've learned anything from the show, remember,
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world, so I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice, show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand, and all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way, so everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer, and it shouldn't be news, that what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just yet understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. Jeopardy. And This Week in Science is coming your way, so everybody listen to everything we say. And if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got a laundry list of items I want to address, from stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you've got. But how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say, and if you've learned anything from the words that we said, then please just remember it's all in your head.
Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in 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 Science.
You shrank too.
For a moment, I hit the off button, but it didn't want to go off. Hey, Jake man, how you doing? First assumptions were correct by Jake man. I love our last song, but there's a lyric that used to be funny
Yeah.
that's not funny in the current time anymore.
No.
And I have thoughts. Don't
Could
know
it
what
be
to do.
clipped?
Hmm?
Could it be clipped early? It's in the second half of the song, right?
I know,
Is there
maybe
a
I
good
could just
time
not
to
play the whole song
you
anymore.
could fade it out at a particular
fade it
time?
out,
Find
right?
a good fade out moment. I know, I've had the same thought.
I've had the thought.
No.
Thanks, everyone. This is the after show.
Mhm.
We're here. Justin's not back yet. He'll be back in a minute. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm not alone in that thought then.
Yeah. No, I've thought about it too. Been like,
Yeah.
is it noticeable in there? Is it bad?
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah. You know, you update based on the knowledge that you gain as you
Yeah.
grow as a human. I'd like to do that. So, yeah, well, yeah. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe we will not dance for the full 3 minutes
Yeah.
and 33 seconds.
I think that's fine. It's a pretty long song.
Long song.
Yeah. We definitely have one of the not the longest, but one of the longest intro and outro songs of any podcast, I think.
Yeah, the intro song I'm okay with because
yeah,
it
that one's
is like
shorter.
30 seconds and
Yeah.
I love the song, and also our whole intro is with the disclaimer and everything. It's like this kind of
Mhm.
longer thing.
Mhm.
But
Totally.
yeah.
You're
Well,
right. The intro is short, but
I'm sure on
yeah,
the podcast
outros.
that people are like tuning out and moving on to the next podcast
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Well before the song is over. There's a cat hair all over my
Oh,
mixer.
I have a hypothesis.
Haha. Yay, Noodles ordered calendars.
Oh,
Thank
nice.
you.
Yeah, I gotta
It's
get
the
that
end
settled
again.
and handed off to Rachel before I go offline.
Yes.
That's on my list. Don't worry, it's on my list.
So I can order it,
Mhm.
right? Wait.
Mhm. Yeah, basically I'm just gonna I have to plop the pictures on and then she has to check the dates and then it can be ordered. But it's set up so that you can like quote unquote collaborate. So I can just invite her to collaborate on the
Cool.
on the calendar. So that should be easy. That's definitely gonna happen this weekend. So
Great.
you'll get it this weekend. And
You're
Rachel
going to
will
make
get
a
it.
newsletter for us too, right?
No.
I know.
Should I stop mentioning the newsletter in the thing? Because
No,
they
Rachel
can't-
can make it. I'll share that with her too.
Actually, I mean, you can sign up for a newsletter, but you won't get one.
You'll get one like quarterly.
Quarterly
Okay.
newsletter.
Okay.
It's time for another newsletter, I think. But
Did we
might
have one
missed
last
the
quarter?
I think we missed the last quarter, but
How about the
otherwise
one before that?
No, we made the one before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's time for a newsletter. Yeah, get Kai to do it. That'd be great.
Semi-quarterly? What would that be? Bi-yearly? Biannually?
Biannually.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was I thinking? I was thinking I'll just try to log in and then you can share the thing with me and
Yeah.
then I'll just do it and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because if you help me log in, then I'm in and I can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. And I can do it before you go away.
Uh-huh.
And I'm miss you. That's fun.
I know. I'm gonna get to see both of you in person.
It's craziness. We'll have to take a photo.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, I mean, at least one, right?
One photo. That's all.
There'll be a
commemorate the
photo
day.
booth. We can do a whole photo booth thing.
Oh, photo booth.
Yeah.
Wait, that sounds like an enclosed space.
No, it's outdoors. There's no enclosed space. It's like a backdrop.
Okay, that's great then.
Yeah, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Not
Oh, I
trying
like that. I like that, Paul. We email everybody all the letters and numerals, and they can build their own newsletter. It's like Build-A-Bear, but build a newsletter. Here's all the letters and numbers we would have used in constructing our newsletter this quarter. Yeah, no
Gaurav
grouchy
wants to
gamer.
know. Yeah, I was ignoring that one.
No.
Gaurav wants to know if we're planning on going to any conferences next year. Not yet.
Well, yeah, I am running a conference for Science Talk,
Mhm.
Science Communication Professionals Conference in Portland. We're hoping it will be in person in the end of
Nice.
March, which
Nice,
seems
nice.
like a good amount of time from now to
Yeah,
be able to do that kind of thing. So fingers
I would
crossed.
agree.
Yeah. Yeah, what is a conference? I excuse me. My throat's drying out.
Good.
It's because I'm drinking a cider and not water. It's dehydrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today I was part of a conference. I've moderated a small panel discussion for the ASTC, ASTAC, American Science and Technology Center, or Association of Science and Technology Centers, which is pretty cool. Yeah. But it was virtual.
Mm-hmm.
I put on like real clothes. I put on a bra. I put on makeup. I did my hair. It was this whole thing that I did today, and I haven't done anything like this in a very long time. And it made me realize that I'm going to have to do that very soon when I go visit
Yeah.
California.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to dress for the public anymore. I wear yoga pants and t-shirts.
Well, you might
That's
want to
it.
bring something else when you come in a couple of weeks.
Like a sweatshirt?
No, like maybe a dress?
What?
Yeah.
No. What?
A dress or a pantsuit. I don't know.
Oh, a pantsuit.
Yeah.
I think it better be like from the
Get a
1970s
power
and made out of fine
Yeah.
corduroy.
Yeah.
Burnt umber.
That would be welcome.
Oh, Grouchy Gamer. I have not seen it. He told me about it, and I said I would take a look at it. Thank you for the reminder. I know, it's California. I can wear whatever I
No,
want.
Paul. No.
He says I can wear whatever I want, Blair.
Oh, it's Paul
Whatever I
Disney. It's
want.
Identity 4. You're using your
I'm just
real
gonna
name.
I'm just gonna pack my yoga pants,
Oh my
and then I'm
God.
gonna go to Heather and JoJo's house, and I'm gonna say, Heather, can I wear your clothes?
Yeah, that'll be fine. Actually, they'll dress you. They've been going out in public. They know how to.
They know how to
do.
wear clothes.
Yeah.
That's right. Getting back to real clothes. It's
Yeah.
a thing.
Oh yeah, Heather will dress you, no problem.
It's a thing, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm a little sad about it. Like, I realized I mean, nice clothes are nice, but I don't want to wear them.
Yeah. No, it's definitely. I had a moment of like
No.
denial when I started going back to work full time.
Yeah.
And after a couple weeks, I
What?
turned around. I was like, I thought we agreed as a society that we weren't going to wear bras anymore.
That we could wear comfy pants. What's going
Who
on?
gave in? Who gave in? Because it wasn't me. By the time I was going back to work, everyone was doing it again.
Yeah, I mean, there are people in the world who really like clothes, and it's a thing, and there are a lot of them. This is why we have a problem with fast fashion destroying the world. But yeah, I was really hoping that this would be the pandemic would teach people that we don't have to be so focused on fashion and that we could wear what we want and be comfortable and not always have to be shopping and buying and consuming and destroying the planet and focusing our whole economy, like in our society, on this capitalistic consumer culture. Man,
Yep.
I'm just gonna go. I just want to stay in my cave, everybody. Blair,
Mhm.
I think the past year has been stressful for me, so I need to spend the next year in my cave.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not what the research said, but okay.
It's an even amount of time, isn't it? Isn't that what
Yeah.
the research said?
I mean, if you interpret it a certain way.
Oh, yes. You got to have a good mask. That's it, Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Oh, and Eric Knapp, yes. Reject the neckties.
Yeah. Neckties and high heels are two things we don't really need for
Never did need
for
them.
most,
Never did need them.
For most occasions. I will say there are some where they are nice, but for most occasions.
No, high heels? Nope, I don't think so. I was walking behind a woman on the sidewalk today after I picked up my son dropped Kai off at school, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go back to my car, wearing my tennis shoes, and I'm like, and I'm like hiking up the hill, and it's great. And there's a woman wearing like a pencil skirt and high heels trying to walk up the hill in front of me. She was super slow, and her heels kept slipping, and she just was like tottering, teeter-totter, and I was like, that. Like, nope, I will not do that again.
Yeah,
I
I
will not.
will only wear heels that are a very small wedge now.
Yeah.
Like, what are you trying to do?
Gaurav Sharma, yes, these are the snuggliest rhinos you'll ever meet.
Yeah,
Rhinos
cute they
are
are.
big time snugglers. So we got up the explore.org. This is the rhinos waking up. It's
They're
6
so cute.
rhinos. They all go in at the same time at night. They kind of march in there together at night, and they kind of have their own little spots in this little enclosure. And almost all at once, they kind of just plop down and snuggle up to each other. Do a little bit of nuzzling, a little bonking around, and then they fall asleep. And this is them, 6 rhinos waking up in the morning, sort of one by one. We're like, come on. Yeah, let's go start our day.
Those are white rhinos. They're so cute.
They are so
They're
cute.
such snuggly bugs, and they have Shrek ears that they're pointing around. Oh, they're so cute. What's also very interesting about this, they also, when the outdoor cam, sort of the front part of the vision is this row of poop, because they all go to the same spot.
Yeah, a midden.
They go to the same. They have like a
Called a
pooping
midden.
spot
Yeah.
a midden. They've
Yeah.
declared this is where we go poop and pee, and then throughout the day, one by one, they'll go over there, back up to it, and
Yeah.
they're so civilized on top of being snuggly.
In the bathroom.
Beep. I'm backing up.
That was when I was a zookeeper. One of my favorite strings. I did have to clean up the rhino midden every day.
Ooh.
It was a workout, but
Oh, I
But you
bet.
didn't have to wander around looking for it, right?
no.
What,
he always
once
went
a
to the
day?
place.
Yeah.
Yeah, once a day we cleaned it up.
How
And
much?
It was 2 wheelbarrows for one rhino.
It's a lot.
So
It's a
so
very
you
sweet
can-
rhino.
If you catch it just right, you can actually, on the outdoor cam, you can see them doing the cleanup. You can actually watch what it's like to clean up after 6 rhinos.
Yeah.
Oh, look, somebody
Oh,
does
that
not
was
want to
very
get
cute.
up. Somebody's
I'm not
like,
ready.
it's too
Before I get
early.
up.
It's too early. Go back to sleep. No, the sun's out. Come on, let's go. No. Let's snuggle over, sleep a little more. Oh, I want to go in there and snuggle with rhinos. Is that allowed?
No,
Blair?
you'll for surely die. You could pet some rhinos through some fencing, but I would not suggest you do free contact with a rhino.
Okay. They seem like really friendly, gentle creatures.
Here's the problem. They're extremely friendly. They're very gentle. They
They're
have
big.
they have terrible eyesight.
Yeah.
They have really good sense of smell and hearing. So if you make any strange sounds or smells,
If I'm not a rhino.
yes, you could die basically because they're thousands of pounds and they'll charge you.
So I've seen them sort of charge each other a little bit, and I'm always wondering like how they haven't all lost an eye, because even though they're like snuggling noses, they've got the big horn right there.
I mean, it's made out of keratin, so it's like on the edge here. It's probably nice and smooth. Also, it's pretty blunt at the tip. You'd have to have a lot of like
it's not really
momentum
pokey.
behind it to actually
Which I
do
feel like
anything.
a rhino could have.
Definitely, but not when they're snuggling, right?
But they're not like, I've been watching, and they go out and then they play throughout the day. They're out there playing with each other, sort of chasing each other around and running around, and like they have the cutest little tails that are wagging as they're having fun. These are the cutest, sweetest creatures I've ever met. They're my new favorite animal. And I can't believe they're endangered.
All of them, all 5.
Because of their
Who's-
freaking horns.
Ah,
Darn
Which is
it.
just fingernails.
Yeah. It's very sad. Very sad because
whoever
they are
the fingernail
beautiful,
eaters
incredible
are, they need to
animals.
stop.
Yeah.
So this is, I mean, we've talked on the show about it before. A lot of it has to do with ancient tradition related to medicine. But there's
need
kind
to
of
stop.
2 problems with that. So one is the perpetuation of that within the community, but the second and potentially the much worse problem is that people travel to those areas and want to buy that stuff as like a weird souvenir when
Oh,
they're there,
no.
or they import it. They
Yeah.
decide that this ancient medicine is worthwhile, and so they want it imported into other countries, and so the demand has exploded. But ultimately, there are areas where conservationists have worked directly with people who live alongside these animals and convince them that those animals are worth more to their community alive than as medicine. And so it's a tough process because you can't just walk in as like the white American and be like, this is
Stop
why
it.
your medicine is BS and you need to do this
But is
different,
it?
so you have to
Are you
like
telling me
work.
it's local? It's local medicine? I thought it was from places not in the locality where it was being used as medicine. Or thought of
It's
as
both.
medicine.
There's lots of Indian and Asian rhino populations, and so that's definitely part of it.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I think if everybody got to watch these rhinos snuggling up for bed, the whole idea that, because I've heard that it was used for basically to treat erectile dysfunction.
mm-hmm.
If you see how non-ferocious and how snuggly these creatures are, and how all they want to do is plop down and take a nap, might change your mind about what your medicine's
But
going to do
Justin,
to you.
you haven't watched long enough then, because there's
I
a
have.
very clear reason. It's suffice it to say, if you are in the zoo at the right time, a child will ask their parent, "Why does that rhino have 5 legs?"
Oh.
Awesome.
That I have yet to see.
Yeah,
But I haven't been watching.
it's
I've
striking.
been watching long enough.
That's
It's
fantastic.
striking. Well, maybe these are mostly females.
They could be. Look at how cute they are. How
They're very
snuggly. Oh. And yeah, there was a baby rhino, I think with its parents at the Copenhagen Zoo. And it was just being like an alpha rhino and like going up and pushing its dad around, and the dad's like, ooh, backing up. Look out, little guy. Oh, it was so cute.
That's awesome.
It was so cute.
I'm trying to find the year that you let us see the rhino, Blair.
Oh, so
Trying to
I
find
was still a
pictures.
zookeeper then, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that was in.
It was before we moved, so I'm guessing 2014 or something.
So
but-
I was a zookeeper from 2010 until 2013.
2013. Okay.
Mhm.
No, were you still a zookeeper then?
Until July 2013. But so I had gone to Israel for 6 months and come back, and then I was a zookeeper for like 3 months before I got a job at the aquarium.
Right. Okay. But then you went back to the zoo as an educational specialist.
For 5 years.
Gosh, it's got to be tough
I
when
think
you're the
were
one in
you
the
an-
back that wakes up and then all the rest in front of you are still sleeping. Come on. You got to convince everybody. Like, get up. Come on. Wake up. Somebody. I got to go. I got things to do.
Gotta do.
What were you going to ask,
Ooh.
Kiki?
Oh, I was just trying to remember if you took us to see the rhino when you were an educational specialist.
No, I wouldn't have had rhino access then.
Okay.
I was definitely a zookeeper.
Okay.
I think that was like at the very end of my tenure as zookeeper. Like I think I even said like, okay, Kiki, if you want to meet
This
the
is
rhino,
it. Yeah.
I'm leaving. So I
Yeah.
do think it was 2013.
Okay. I will try to find it.
'Cause-
Yeah.
Well, I
That
mean,
was
it
such
would
an
have
amazing
to be,
experience.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. It would have had to have been
Mhm.
either 2012 or 2013 because I started the show in 2012.
hmm Right, which is why I thought it was later.
Right. Yeah, no, I was at Aquarium of the Bay from 2013 to 2015.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I thought I had pictures. Marshall
Trying
has
to push your
pictures.
way through a crowd when that crowd is a bunch of rhinos.
Oh, that one
Jeez.
just does not want to get up.
No.
That rhino's like, no, thank you.
He's even got another one pinned in. There's one that always goes and sleeps in the corner. Like the two in the back corner always are completely snuggled up next to each other.
How do you
At
know it's
night.
the same ones?
Because I've watched enough of this.
Hours.
Yeah, I've actually watched. This is my, like, not this part. I haven't actually seen them waking up before. But I like to tune in and watch them all go to bed when I do. I watch it as I'm going to sleep. When they all come in together, they munch a little bit because they get some food put out for them. They do a little bit of snacking, and then one by one, or sometimes 2 at a time, 3 at a time, they'll all hunker down to their spot. And it all happens pretty quick, but oh gosh, I like to watch it right as I'm about to drift off to sleep.
Cute.
And then I dream that I'm a rhino, snuggled up with all my rhino buddies.
dreams. I want rhino dreams.
They have one of the best collective nouns. It's a crash of rhinos.
Crash of rhinos. That's so good.
It's very good.
Yeah, I like a bedtime snack too.
Okay. Well, it seems like we are
Yeah.
losing energy. Well, the next time I see you both, I'll be wearing a giant dress.
Wow, I'm excited.
How fun.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
very
yeah, you
exciting.
guys- now I know what you were talking about. Yeah, I need outdoor clothes too.
Yeah.
I need people clothes. Oh,
Right?
gosh.
Like people clothes. I'm very weirded out by this whole thing.
I
Blair's
know.
forcing us to be humans.
Hey, I'm not forcing you to do anything. I just invited you to enjoy.
Yes.
Um,
I can enjoy things. I think. Maybe.
All right, well then, in that case, you're gonna need some rest. So say
Yeah.
goodnight, Blair.
good worm milk night, Blair. Say goodnight, Justin.
Good night, Rhino Justin.
Good
night, Dr. Kiki.
Kiki.
Good night to all the rhinos out there. Get your calendar orders in.
Mhm.
Blair, have a wonderful couple of weeks. We'll see you in there.
Yeah, and I'll see everyone watching for Twissoween.
Yes, Blair will be back for Twissoween at the end of the month.
Yes.
But we'll be back next week. We'll be back the week after. Week in, week out, we'll be back. And I hope you all stay safe, stay well, snuggle up like the rhinos. It's getting to be fall snuggling weather. Have a great night. Have a great morning. Wherever you are, stay curious. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again next time.